Robert De Niro is an iconic Hollywood actor whose charisma and commanding presence have mesmerized moviegoers for decades. Fans are shocked and horrified by the awful reality that has now hit his family. Everyone around him is watching with sorrowful hearts as his family and friends gather to say their final goodbyes. Where is the legendary actor now? What terrible news has caused his family to desire to distance themselves? Come with us as we reveal the startling truth that appears to be alienating his loved ones. Robert De Niro's life took a dramatic turn on July 2, 2023. In his residence in Manhattan, his grandson Leandro, who was 19 years old, was discovered dead. What caused it? An overdose that proves lethal. The grandson of actor Robert De Niro passed away last month, and now we know why. An unintentional overdose of fentanyl was determined by the New York City medical examiner. On July 2, Leandro De Niro Rodriguez passed away. A lethal combination of narcotics including fentanyl, cocaine, and ketamine was exposed in the medical report. Just like his grandfather before him, Leandro had been aiming for a career in acting. A Star is Born, the smash hit movie of 2018, even featured him in a small cameo. His brilliant future, however, was abruptly ended. Even the normally reserved and level-headed De Niro seemed noticeably distressed. "The shock is all it is," he told People magazine in an extremely emotional moment. "It never occurred to me that it would. After that. Look at fentanyl overdose on wood, thus it's you were surprised and didn't expect it to happen. I had no idea it would succeed." The tragedy's tone shifted even further to the dark side only 2 weeks later. On suspicion that she sold Leandro fake prescription medications, police detained Sophia Haley Marks, a 20-year-old woman. The tablets were actually laced with fentanyl, a potent chemical that may be lethal in even minuscule amounts. They were intended to be oxycodone and Xanax. America's worsening drug epidemic came to light with Leandro's death. Fentanyl levels in counterfeit prescription pills were found to be lethal in nearly half of the cases, according to the Drug Enforcement Administration. Tragically, his death demonstrated how harmful these substances are. It sparked new discussions on how to help people overcome addiction, the need for more effective drug education programs, and stronger prescription laws. More storms rolled in while De Niro grieved for his grandson. He was confronted with a large lawsuit in November 2023 and ended up in court. In a $12 million lawsuit, Graham Chase Robinson, his former assistant, claimed that he harassed, verbally abused, and discriminated against her. Conflicting lawsuits brought forth by actor Robert De Niro and his ex-assistant. The young woman claimed the Oscar winner verbally abused her and published crude voicemails in which he purportedly left messages. Over the course of more than a decade, Robinson rose through the ranks of De Niro's firm, Canal Productions, from personal assistant to vice president. On the other hand, she asserted that she had to deal with improper remarks, unfair treatment, and even unwelcome physical touch throughout that time. Court heard a disturbing voicemail tape of De Niro shouting and yelling at Robinson. This judicial struggle, though, had opposing viewpoints. Robinson was sued for $6 million years ago, in 2019, by De Niro and his company. They said she took money from the company, wasted money, and even watched too much Friends on the job. On top of that, they said she allegedly deposited 5 million miles, or around $85,000, into her personal account. 8 days passed during the trial. For 2 of those days, De Niro was the star of the show as a witness. Despite his denials, he did concede to some of Robinson's accusations of abuse. When she inquired if he had mentioned to her that his personal trainer was paid more due to his family's financial situation, he simply answered yes. Scratching his back was something he had requested twice, he confessed with a chuckle. "I am subdued." The jury finally decided anything after 5 hours of deliberate. Although Robert De Niro did not receive a conviction, the judge did compel Canal Productions to pay $1.2 million to Robinson. She was found guilty by a jury of gender discrimination and retaliation by the corporation for speaking out. Public perception of De Niro took a hit, and discussions about female bias in the workplace, power dynamics in the entertainment industry, and the blurring of personal and professional lines were ignited by the case. Another catastrophe occurred at the very moment when everything looked to be reaching a breaking point. Tiffany Chen, longtime companion of Robert De Niro, had a scary health crisis in July 2023. She began to notice something was off not long after giving birth to their daughter Gia. A peculiar tingle on her tongue was the first sign. Afterwards, she noticed that her face was becoming noticeably numb. She noticed that her face was sagging when she glanced at herself in the mirror one day. Worry grew. Her condition deteriorated significantly in a matter of days. She was at her food limit. When she chewed, food would simply fall out. She started to stutter. A paralytic disorder known as Bell's palsy was diagnosed after her hasty arrival at the hospital. Tiffany had a more severe case of Bell's palsy, but the majority of cases only damage one side of the face. Her face was paralyzed on both sides. There was a significant language barrier for her. She was unable to do anything, not even kiss her daughter or smile at her newborn child. Feeling embarrassed and irritated, she walked away from the ordeal. His normally stern demeanor stood by her side as he offered encouragement. Assuring her that she looked fine, he even made a joke about how she seemed somewhat severe. How difficult was it for Robert De Niro to achieve his success? We should get right in and discover. On September 5, 1960, Robert De Niro's life took yet another dramatic turn. He enrolled in the Stella Adler Conservatory on that very day, a prestigious acting school on the planet. This wasn't merely the next stage. It was at that very time that he started to grasp the essence of acting. He dove headfirst into method acting, the style that would come to define him. In an effort to graduate from high school, he attempted to balance acting studies with night academics. It was short-lived, though. Long gone were the days of school. Performing was paramount. There was no going backwards after that. The Wedding Party, Brian De Palma's debut feature film, was De Niro's first acting role. When he shot it in 1963, he was barely 20 years old. The picture wasn't released until 1969, though, because of legal issues. Despite the film's lackluster size, monochrome cinematography, and lack of impact, the lengthy delay added an aura of mystery to his debut. Nevertheless, it was a significant achievement. It marked his official entrance into the film industry. Then, in 1973, Bang the Drum brought forth yet another paradigm shift. At a moderate pace. It was a baseball film at first glance, but it was really a touching tale of friendship and grief. Bruce Pearson, played by Robert De Niro, was a catcher who was dying of Hodgkin's illness. He was compassionate but had a basic mentality. He fully embodied the role, not only acted it out. He trained with the St. Louis Cardinals and spent months mastering the game in an effort to give an honest portrayal. It was imperative that all motions and gestures be authentic. Both moviegoers and reviewers paid attention to the picture upon its July 26, 1973, premiere. They witnessed more than simply a performer, they witnessed an individual. His performance was honest, tragic, and profoundly emotional. However, securing the part was no picnic. De Niro was cast after 7 unsuccessful auditions. Not only did the picture launch De Niro to stardom, but it also grossed $5 million, a respectable sum for such a low-budget movie. At last, Hollywood was taking notice. Fate brought him into contact with Martin Scorsese, a filmmaker whose influence would last a lifetime, in that same year. A few months later, they debuted together in Mean Streets, which debuted in theaters. The part of the lead actor ultimately went to De Niro's pal Harvey Keitel. He was cast instead as Johnny Boy, a careless gambler who perpetually gets himself into trouble. In the end, it was a great match. The character was energized by De Niro's explosive performance. Johnny Boy was more than a fictional figure, he constituted an actual physical force. The audience was captivated by him. With a meager budget of only $500,000, the filmmakers created the brutal and unfiltered film Mean Streets. It was difficult to shoot. Despite numerous challenges, the crew filmed in authentic settings in Little Italy, New York. Scorsese had to bribe some local mobster to stop them from interfering with the film. Until Scorsese's dad personally made a deal, a building owner would not allow them film in another incident. In the end, the picture was a smashing success. It sprang to life, was genuine, and fearless. The critics were raving, and Robert De Niro won an Oscar for his supporting role. All of a sudden, he went from being a talented young actor to a potential superstar. Is that why his shows leave an impression? We'll have to see. Robert De Niro's meteoric rise to Hollywood stardom began in 1974. It was in that year that he portrayed a youthful Vito Corleone in the sequel to The Godfather. With the first Godfather film's enormous success under its belt, anticipation for the sequel was through the roof. Playing a younger version of the renowned persona created by Marlon Brando was a challenging role for De Niro. It was serious business for him. De Niro spent 4 months perfecting his Sicilian dialect in order to be ready. His efforts to make his act seem authentic were well rewarded. After a smashing success with The Godfather Part 2, Robert De Niro took home the trophy for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards. In typical Robert De Niro style, he didn't even bother to turn up to accept the award, despite being only 31 years old. Why? Because work always came first for him. He was in Italy filming another movie. It was more than simply a personal triumph for him. It was a watershed moment for the picture, which took home 6 Oscars on the same night. De Niro triumphed over Lee Strasberg and Michael Viegazzo, 2 of his own co-stars, to claim the trophy. This demonstrated that he was not merely a promising young actor, but rather a top contender. The start had just begun. De Niro delivered another legendary performance in Taxi Driver, following up The Godfather Part 2. It wasn't only his acting, though, that gave his Travis Bickle performance its impact. It was the extraordinary measures he took to become ready. De Niro did more than just fantasize about being a poor, lonely cab driver in New York City, he lived it. He worked punishing 12-hour stints as a real taxi driver for 3 months after getting his license. His recent Academy Award victory didn't make him famous. He desired that very thing. Like Travis, he needed to disappear. Then the film's crowning moment arrived, the now iconic "You Talkin' to Me" his sequence, which had never been written into the script. While staring at his reflection in the mirror, De Niro improvised the line, making it sound like a man whose hold on reality was slipping away. However, he went to great lengths to adapt to the part. For 2 months, he walked 15 miles a day in Travis's boots until they felt like second skin. He also shed 35 pounds and spent time with Vietnam War veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, to comprehend their suffering. When filming began, he had already transformed into someone other than Travis Bickle. It was him. De Niro, though, wasn't through challenging himself. He really went all out in his portrayal of boxer Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. De Niro spent months in the ring training with the real boxer, Joe LaMotta, until LaMotta finally acknowledged that De Niro could have made it as a professional. Learning to fight, nevertheless, was not the most difficult thing. It was evolving into LaMotta, the heavier, older version. De Niro threw himself into it without employing any prosthetics or a fat costume. Eating his way around France and Italy, he put on 60 pounds by stuffing himself with spaghetti, bread, ice cream, and everything else he could get his hands on. His weight went up from 145 to 215 pounds. He was unable to move or breathe because of the extreme weight increase. Because they were truly concerned about his health, the film's crew had to rush through filming his harder scenes. After the fact, doctors cautioned him against repeating the action. Although it took almost a year for his body to recover, the agony was ultimately worthwhile. Best Actor was the Oscar he won. But that wasn't the end of his fixation on giving every job an authentic feel. The king of comedy wanted to know what a stalker was thinking since he portrayed a man who was dangerously obsessed with fame. It wasn't sufficient to meet one in person. He decided to go to the next level. The film's iconic talk show presenter, Jerry Lewis, played by the late, great actor, and he began covertly watching Lewis. His demeanor and actions even when he believed no one was observing. Although it worked, Lewis was unnerved by it. The act that De Niro gave on film was so lifelike that it made viewers feel uneasy. Then there was Goodfellas, a film where his attention to detail was paramount. De Niro wants to give his all to the role of icy, cold criminal Jimmy Conway. As we embraced, I gently kissed the back of your hand. Your behavior has changed to that of a jerk in under 2 minutes. Absolutely not. You slightly offended him. You seem to be a bit disorganized. He was not insulted by me. He even dressed in a way that no one could tell he was trying to put himself in the shoes of a man who was pathologically preoccupied with power and wealth. Like the real-life gangster, he wore silk pants for the whole session. It didn't end there though. In each scene, he insisted on using actual money. Each flick of a dollar appeared real because De Niro brought $5,000 of his own money to the set, even though most movies utilize fake banknotes. But there was one scene that came out from out of nowhere. Anger became overwhelming during a dramatic phone scene. The glass broke and fragments flew as he pounded the phone down with such force. He has left. Much obliged for your time. He drew blood as a sharp object sliced into his hand. But he didn't halt, he put it to good use. To give the moment an unfiltered, unexpected intensity, he covered Ray Liotta's face with his own blood. Time was of the essence in Robert De Niro's first marriage. He first crossed paths with Diane Abbott in 1976 on the set of Taxi Driver. They were married on April 28, 1976, a mere 3 months later. Raphael was called after the Raphael Hotel in Rome, the place where he was conceived, by his parents. De Niro remained completely engrossed in his role as Travis Bickle, continuing to play out his lines long after filming had ended. His new marriage was tested by his dedication to his role, but they overcame the obstacles and welcomed their son Raphael into the world on November 9, 1976. As further evidence of his devotion to family, De Niro adopted Dana, Abbott's daughter, who was born in 1971. During the 12 years of their marriage, De Niro became a global phenomenon because to his appearances in groundbreaking films like Raging Bull, 1980, and The Deer Hunter, 1978. Abbott was a regular in his films. She portrayed a barmaid in 1982's The King of Comedy, among others. Having said that, they divorced in 1988. De Niro paid Abbott a substantial quantity of $6.2 million, a huge figure for that period, as part of the confidential settlement of their divorce. De Niro started dating actress and model Toukie Smith in 1988, after the divorce. It was an odd partnership in many ways, and it lasted until 1996. They welcomed twin boys into the world in 1995. In vitro fertilization and surrogacy were utilized by Julian Henry and Erin Kendrick. Quite unusual for famous people to choose back then. Having twins at the age of 52 posed a challenge to the conventional notion of parenting for De Niro. The already complicated situation in De Niro's personal life was further complicated by whispers that he was seeing supermodel Naomi Campbell at the same time. Smith famously said, "Private with a capital P," since he was extremely discreet about their relationship. They demonstrated their commitment to raising their children jointly by agreeing to a co-parenting agreement after their 1996 divorce and taking turns caring for the twins for 4 days each. Grace Hightower became De Niro's wife in 1997. In 1987, while Hightower was working as a waitress at the London establishment Mr. Chow, they crossed paths. After dating for 10 years, they tied the knot on June 17, 1997. But things went rocky in their marriage fast, and De Niro filed for divorce in 1999, barely 2 years after they were married. At 2004, the couple reaffirmed their vows at a grandiose ceremony in the Catskill Mountains, with numerous famous people in attendance. It's surprising that the divorce was never finalized. They were parents of 2 kids apiece. On March 18, 1998, Elliot was born, and on December 23, 2011, Helen Grace was delivered via surrogate. Their 21-year marriage was not without its challenges. The relationship between De Niro and Hightower reportedly suffered because of Hightower's heavy hand in managing De Niro's money in film ventures. When they finally separated in 2018, things became heated in the divorce battle. According to De Niro's attorney, the actor felt pressured to keep working so he could support Hightower's lavish lifestyle. Court documents showed that she astonished many by spending $215,000 monthly on credit cards and an additional $160,000 in cash. Having a child again at the age of 68 was something that De Niro did not expect. He became one of the oldest Hollywood celebrity dads on December 23, 2011, when he and Hightower welcomed their daughter, Helen Grace, through surrogacy. Many looked up to him since he became a dad at a young age, demonstrating that there is no age restriction on having children. Although he faced criticism for becoming a father at a later age, his close buddy Al Pacino welcomed twins at the age of 70, so he was not alone. Taking a 6-month hiatus from performing to attend to his newborn baby. He lost several big parts as a result of this choice, including 2014's The Judge. There was a change in Dario's role choices as he became an elder father. Films like The Family, 2013, and The Intern, 2015, which are more suitable for families, began to attract him in 2015. Later in age, when questioned about his experience as a father, Dario gave a simple but sincere answer. "My children are my world. Companionship alone. You put the hard times behind you when you're enjoying those priceless moments." How did Robert De Niro's modest beginnings unfold? I think we should examine it more closely. Born in a Manhattan hospital on August 17, 1943, Robert De Niro is a famous actor. He came from a multicultural family. He was descended from Italian and Irish families. Although his mother's family tree included people from the Netherlands, England, France, and Germany, there was an artist in each of them. Both of his parents were creative types. His dad was an abstract painter whose pieces were shown in important museums, and mom could be found writing poetry as well as paintings. They spent a lot of time making work together after meeting in 1941 at an art school, when they fell in love rapidly. Their inability to put down their paintbrushes persisted even throughout their honeymoon. At the tender age of 2, De Niro's life took an unexpected turn. Although his parents would eventually separate, the reasons behind it were not well known at the time. His dad had finally accepted the fact that he was gay. His father was still an active figure in his upbringing and a part of his life even after they broke up. De Niro was known as Bobby Milk by his fellow children because of his little stature and fair complexion when he was younger. Bullying wasn't the only thing that affected his formative years. Secretly, on September 14, 1945, they had him baptized in a Catholic church, unaware of his parents. Although neither of his parents were religious, his grandparents were quite religious and wanted him to join them. The family became estranged as a result of this. As a child, he lived with his mother on the streets of Little Italy and Greenwich Village. She took up jobs as a typewriter and printer to help support them, usually putting in a lot of time. As a result, De Niro took solace in his cinematic pursuits and spent much time alone. Going to the theater with his dad was a regular occurrence for him, and he soon developed an obsession with movies. Greta Garbo was the one actress that really enchanted him. Something about her performances stuck with him, and he couldn't put his finger on why. Then a chance encounter altered the course of his life. With the money his mom made typing scripts for a theater company, De Niro was able to attend acting school at no cost to him. Even though he was just 10 years old, this was his first taste of the performing industry. Not long after that, on April 15, 1954, he made his stage debut in a school production of The Wizard of Oz, portraying the timid lion. School lost some of its luster for him as he matured. At the age of 16, he took a daring step. He left school to pursue acting, his lifelong passion. He had dabbled with the High School of Music and Art for a little while, but the strong pressure and rivalry were too much for him. He abandoned it after only 3 days. He persisted despite his family's disapproval of his decision. One aspect of his life stayed the same through all the changes. Bobby Milk, his former moniker, remained with him. Even though he was just 17 years old, his adventure was only just begun. Do you agree that Robert De Niro's family should say goodbye after his devastating revelation? Leave a comment below and tell us what you think. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it.